Hi everyone, this is your host and your coach, Mary Ayers, and welcome to part 2 of Setting Boundaries. Why is it so stinking hard to do? So in part 1, we looked at and tapped around just the idea of getting in touch with ourselves, of recognizing when our boundaries are being breached, what we believe about boundaries, and we tapped on our right to know ourselves so that we could take this next step, which is about what we're going to talk about today, which is about what kind of boundaries, what kind of rights do we have, what do we want, what do we know to ask for. And before I get into that, I know I gave you a little bit of a homework assignment. I said, just start to get in touch with the idea and feel what comes up around this idea of knowing yourself well enough to be able to state your rights, even if you don't know what they are yet. We knew going into this that we were going to break it down into these little tiny pieces because boundaries is such a big topic. And I'm going to say, again, this is something, it's a skill. This isn't a characteristic. This isn't about like being shy or being an extrovert or those kinds of things. Setting boundaries is a skill, and it is something that would have been taught to us as we were growing up. And I even recognized for myself, I never really thought about it as teaching my kids this as a skill, the same way that you would teach them to brush their teeth, the same way that you would teach them to tie their shoes. It's a skill that we may have gotten a little bit of, none of. It depends what kind of household you were born in, but the thing is it's never too late to learn how to set a boundary. And that's what we're going to be doing on this series. So first and foremost, we recognize the fact that I'm going to have to look into myself, and maybe I've been turning my own voice down because the voices of other people's were so strong. I'm so used to being told what to do, or I'm looking through a lens of what they expect from me or how they're going to feel about things, and we might get some kickback around feeling that if I was to speak up for myself, who would be angry? We're going to look at all those different aspects. For today, though, I'm going to run by you a few of the kinds of things that might be your personal rights. And that's what we're really saying. I know that we're saying boundaries, but at the same time, you have to know what your right is. What am I asking for? What do I feel I'm entitled to? Because once I know what I'm entitled to, then I'm able to see when people are trying to manipulate me out of that, or somehow they're pushing against those boundaries. They're boundary crashers. But we have to know what our boundaries are, what our rights are. And so I'm going to say these terms a little interchangeable, but it's still the same. You're setting a boundary when you're saying to somebody, hey, this is how I feel about something and I feel dismissed, or I feel the need to talk about it. But what are my rights? How do I get them spelled out? We're going to take a look at what some of the ideas are around having some rights, some personal rights. What can I ask for? And I'm going to let you know, I have a list, a Bill of Rights, that's going to be available for you on my website, tapintoaction.com. It's going to be in the blog section. It's going to be with this radio show, and it's a PDF file on your rights. It gives you ideas of some of the things that you have the right to ask for. And so you can download that. It's there for you. I'm going to give you a few steps to do with that once you've got it in hand. But today we're going to talk about a couple of those boundaries that are on those lists because I want to trigger you a little bit. I want you to get a feel for what a personal right of yours might be, and so that you can feel, how does that feel to me when I think about that being my right? Does it feel good? Does it feel like, yes, I have the right for that? So let's take a look at these. I have 4 here. I'm going to say them. And they start this way. I have the right to say no to anything when I feel I am not ready, it is unsafe, or it violates my rules. That's a personal right. I have the right to terminate conversations with people who make me feel put down and humiliated. Another right. I have the right not to be responsible for others' behaviors, actions, feelings, or problems. I have the right to make mistakes and not have to be perfect. Now, I just gave you 4 of those. The truth is, you're going to go through and figure out how would I say that. But I wanted to give you these 4 because I thought, boy, if anything's going to trigger some people, this is going to be it. Some of these are going to be the kinds of rights that somebody might say, I didn't know I even had the right to be able to do that. That I have the right to say no to anything when I feel I'm not ready. When did I get that right? I never had that demonstrated to me. When did I have the right to terminate conversations with people who make me feel put down and humiliated? Wow, I couldn't do that. If I had a parent who was saying things to me that made me feel bad, I didn't have the right. Nobody showed me or told me that I had the right to say, you know what, that's not okay. Or how about a boss who might be talking to you in a way that feels abusive? And to be able to say to them, do I have the right to say, you know what, that's not okay. It is not okay to talk to me in that way. And if it continues, I'm going to have to go to HR. That's all right, but what comes up is, what if I lost my job? What if that person gets mad at me? We're going to talk about these things, and we're going to tap plenty on those kinds of things later in this series. Right now, I just want your reactions to this idea that I could even have the right to say that. Can I embrace that that's my right? I have the right not to be responsible for other people's behaviors and actions and feelings or problems? No, that doesn't sound right, Mary. That can't be true. I absolutely think that I'm supposed to be responsible for other people's behaviors and actions and feelings and problems. That was my job. That was my role. See, so you don't even know. You can't even imagine being able to say, no, that's too much. Or, hey, I want to stop here. Or, I can only listen to this for about 10 minutes, and then I have other things to do. Or saying, I trust that you'll know how to solve this problem, and I'm going to be here for you if you need it, but I trust that you're going to be able to do that. Some of this is because we don't have the language of knowing how to say it when we're setting a soft boundary, is that we don't have the words. It's as if we didn't even get that modeled for us, those words. And again, stay with me on these series. We're just going to keep chunking it down. We're going to do a whole session on skills. What would I even say to somebody? What do I say when somebody is really bashing against my boundaries? And how to even set those boundaries in such a nice, open, assertive way that's non-confrontational, that actually exudes acceptance and compassion. So we're going to get there. But first, before you even do that, you have to start with the idea that I have the right to have some rights. I can explore these. I can adopt them. And so we're going to do some tapping right now, because I have a little exercise at the end of this. I want to do our tapping up front first. We're going to do some tapping on this idea of really having the rights. Can I even explore these rights? Which ones of these, which one did I read to you that made you think, uh-oh, that's not right? That's not true. I could never do that. I could never see myself saying to somebody, you know what, this conversation is making me uncomfortable. I'm going to go ahead and leave, and think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I would get in so much trouble. They would get mad at me. I want you to just really think about the right. Can I ask for my rights? Is it okay for me to have rights? Last week we talked about even knowing that we could have them. Today we're actually looking at some of those rights and saying, boy, that's really interesting. Feel it in your body, 0 to 10. How uncomfortable does this idea feel, this whole idea around having rights, or some version of that? Okay, whatever's coming up for you, just feel it in your body, scale it 0 to 10. We're going to be on the karate chop. Even though I never knew I had any rights. Nobody taught me that I had any. I don't know if it's true that I do have some rights. But I've decided to accept myself and be open to the idea that I might have some rights. Even though having my own personal rights is foreign to me. Nobody ever told me I had any. Nobody showed me how to set them. I'm really not so sure about this idea of rights. I'm choosing to accept all of me and be open to the idea that maybe I could explore my rights. even though I'm uncomfortable with this idea of having some rights, setting some boundaries, because how am I going to stand up for them? I'm not so sure about this whole boundary topic. I'm open to the idea I could learn something new. I'm open to the idea about having some rights. Perhaps I can just keep open, explore, and try a few out. At the eyebrow, I know I don't have rights. Side of the eye, that just doesn't sound correct. Under the eye, surely something's wrong with that. Under the nose, I wouldn't even know which rights were mine. On the chin, I want to know how to have rights. Collarbone, how to set some boundaries. How to stick up for myself. Top of the head, know when to say yes. Back at the eyebrow, know when to say no. Side of the eye, so maybe I'm going to just stay open. Under the eye, to this idea and explore. Under the nose, I can look at some rights. On the chin, pick which fit good for me. Collarbone, I probably could start small. Under the arm, try a few on. Top of the head, the ones that feel good. Back at the eyebrow, the ones that fit for me. Side of the eye, I probably could change some of them too. Under the eye, I could add more as I get comfortable with it. Under the nose, I could be a work in progress. On the chin, that sounds exciting. Collarbone, I'm open to giving this a chance. Under the arm, I'm going to try on the idea of rights. Top of the head, that's my first right. The right to be curious and the right to give it a try. And take a big breath. Right now, we're just opening up the space for you to be open-minded to think about this, to be open-minded about what might be some of the rights you would request. It's the reason that I made this document, so that it's got a list of the different kinds of rights that it will give you a head start. So check it out. Go to tapintoaction.com to get your document of rights. Once you have it, I want you to take a look at it. Read through all the different rights that are there. There's a good 30-some different kinds of rights. They're really ideas for you that you might begin to think, which ones do I want to adopt? Rewrite parts or all the examples if you want to. Read each statement out loud and reflect, do I really believe this now? And if the answer is no, or I'm not sure, then that's okay. Start to tap on that. What doesn't feel comfortable around this? Once you've done a little bit of tapping around that, then maybe rewrite that in a way that feels good and fits for you. Number 2, acknowledge your childhood adult's responsibility to have taught you their versions of your rights to get you started in life. In other words, somebody gave you their version of what they thought were their rights, but that was their version. Now it's your turn to find out how well they fit for you. What do you want yours to be? So know that you have the right to edit or update any of those rights that might have been passed down so that they fit for you. And then reread this sample bill when you look at it. Once you've gotten all of the ones that you like, and let me give you a little idea. Out of those 33, maybe that you could start with 4 or 5, just like I offered here. Just start with 4 or 5 that you might start to play with. Pick the ones that you feel drawn to, that you say to yourself, these are the ones I would like to start with in my life. You don't have to adopt all 33 of them, 35 or however many I've got there. You can start with a couple. Get used to it. What would you say about them? What feels comfortable about it? What would you change about that? Write it down. Put it on a 3x5 card. Look at it each day and say, do I really believe I have the right to ask for this? What comes up if I don't? What am I hearing? Am I hearing myself say, no, you really, really don't. You don't deserve it. You weren't good enough. You can't ask for this. Nobody will respect this right. That's a biggie, one we're going to tap on later. Can I start to play with some of these? What would it look like? A lot of the action steps that we take are really behind the scenes. It takes you recognizing when you might want to put out that boundary, when somebody is crashing it, and begin to just notice. Up till now, you probably didn't even notice it. You might have just felt violated. You might have felt overran. You might have felt manipulated, taken advantage of, unappreciated, exhausted. Any of those feelings happen sometimes when our boundaries are being violated. We don't even know that. We don't even know that. What right do I think I have that I'm not standing up for? Right now, this is an internal process. We are not asking that you have to say anything to anybody. You don't have to take any action step at all. This is very much an exploratory part of the process so that you can begin to say, when the time comes, if the time comes that I'm going to speak up or say something about this, let me get comfortable knowing that I deserve it. Being able to let's do a little tapping around this idea of deserving. Do I deserve to have rights? And it's a little different than our first tapping because I really want you to think about how deserving. Make this statement, I deserve to set boundaries. I deserve to have personal rights and to set boundaries. How true does that feel 0 to 10 on the karate chop? Even though I don't know if I deserve to be able to set boundaries, I choose to learn how to do it anyhow. Even though I don't know if I'm deserving enough to be able to ask for what I want, what I need, to say yes and to say no, I'm ready now to learn. Even though I've never been deserving enough to be able to really speak up for myself, what if I'm learning to now? At the eyebrow, I don't think I deserve to have any rights. Side of the eye, or set any boundaries. Under the eye, a part of me thinks this is a deserving issue. Under the nose, but what if I could have some rights? On the chin, no, I don't think that's possible. Collarbone, I don't have any because I don't deserve them. Under the arm, but everybody deserves some. Top of the head, not me. Back at the eyebrow, I wonder where I got that belief. Side of the eye, why I don't believe I don't deserve them. Underneath the eye, and even if I did have that belief. Under the nose, I wonder what I need to do to change it. On the chin, is it okay for me to change this belief about deserving? Collarbone, what if I do deserve it? Underneath the arm, what if everybody deserves it? Top of the head, what if I just learn how to set them? Back at the eyebrow, I do deserve to have some boundaries. Side of the eye, I'm going to support this deservingness. Under the eye, I'm going to grow more deserving. Underneath the nose, I'm so glad I'm clearing up all this deservingness issue. On the chin, I think I can be deserving of rights. On the collarbone, I've decided I can have some rights. Under the arm, I deserve to have them. Top of the head, I'm going to accept myself, honor myself, and treat myself well by having some boundaries now. And take a breath. Trust me, there's so much that we could tap on for this idea around the boundaries and our ability to have them or not have them, deservingness. We just want to be able to open up the space, to be able to think about it, to explore it, and play with it. I need to hear from you. That's one of the beauties of this. I got so many great emails from the last show. People talked about really getting in touch with the idea that they were using anger as a way to set their boundaries instead of their words. And part of that was they didn't even know what to say, and part of that was they didn't know that they could say anything. And that's the direction that we're moving to. We're really talking about being able to recognize what are those boundaries, and next we're going to keep looking at now how do I put them into action. Listen, you want to send me something, you want to give me some feedback, it's Mary@tapintooaction.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm looking forward to the next step in this Setting Boundaries series. So until next time, stay brilliant.